Working in gang intervention is a hard enough job to begin with, but a handful of former city street workers say higher-ups made it even harder. As the Boston Globe first reported, 3 former employees and a 4th person on unpaid medical leave have filed lawsuits against Boston and its gang intervention program called Street Outreach Advocacy and Response, or SOAR. They're claiming unsafe working conditions, harsh treatment of staffers, particularly older and disabled staffers, and the ignoring of COVID safety protocols, among other issues. One of those filing suit is Jamaine Gaitor, an Iraq War veteran who worked for the city for nearly 15 years before being fired in November 2020 after complaining of a hostile work environment. He joins me now with his attorney, Janet Ruggieri. And by the way, we also invited the city to send a representative to join us. They declined. Janet and Jamaine, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Jamaine, why do you think you were fired in November?
Why do I think I was fired? I think I was fired because I went against the grain. So in November, I pretty much put out a letter. I put out a letter in October, pretty much stating the unsafe work environments in SOAR. So the city put out a manual, a BCYF policy and protocol manual about what should be going on for staff coming back to work. So I noticed in the manual that nothing that we were supposed to be doing as far as partitions, 6 feet distance, mask wearing, none of that was going on. We had cold water in the building at the time, no warm running water. So none of that was going on. So I brought the attention to my managers, and the response I got was, I brought it to my managers in front of a whole roll call, and the response that we got was, use FMLA or do what you have to do. So
you think you were retaliated against? Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
And by the way, in a letter you sent to a number of people in the city, Jamaine, including the mayor at the time, Mayor Walsh, you wrote, they look at us as the population we serve. What does that mean?
That means we get treated like the bottom of the barrel down there. They call it the basement. Nobody comes and checks on us. We get leftovers down there. You know, as much as we complain down there, our complaints are never heard. Nobody pays attention to
Understood.
it. So it's like,
Janet, I'm sorry, you don't just represent Jamaine, you represent 4 workers who have a gripe is an understatement with the city, lost their jobs. Is there a common thread through all or most of these cases?
Yes, in fact, we're moving to consolidate all of them for the common facts in the case.
What are
they? As Jamaine said, the COVID violations that were just kind of egregious, all of the complainants were, except for Mr. Pitts, were forced to get into a crowded van together during COVID. When they knew that there was a coworker in the van who had just been exposed to COVID and was supposed to be quarantining, but came because he was told by his manager to come. And so everybody was exposed. So the COVID protocols were not followed. As Jamaine said, there was no PPE, there was no social distancing, there was no shields to protect one another. The constituency was coming in and out. No one was checking them for masks or anything.
Are you claiming race and age discrimination in some of these cases as well, Janet?
Yes, I am.
And what is that based upon?
So the race discrimination, our position is that all of the managers and most of the managers were Hispanic. And the first line street workers and senior workers, street workers, were Black or African-American, dark-skinned Black. And it does seem to be that there is discrimination on the part of the Hispanics to the frontline street workers who are primarily Black. They're not held to the same standards as the Hispanics or white employees are. Now, granted, there are very few white employees there, but it's clear that, you know, there's no hot running water, there were no COVID protocols, the standards to which they were held were extremely different from other departments within the city.
And you think it was in part because of the color of their skin?
We do.
You know, Janet, staying with you for a minute, I know there have been what I think you at least perceive to be some threats directed at Jamaine. Can you describe what you're categorizing as threats, please?
So there have been posts to his Facebook page calling him a snitch, telling people generally that he is tattletaling by going to the media. This happened around the time that we went to the media. The Boston Globe article came out. They're also saying, most recently was today, they're saying that he shouldn't get over his head about all of these issues, that, he's singing too much, essentially, is what one of the posts said. And unfortunately, one of the posts was from his prior manager at the city of Boston, which makes it an additional retaliation claim.
Jamaine, do you feel threatened by what's been posted on Facebook, including on your account? You do?
I do.
How? Describe to me if you can.
Because I'm coming from a gang prevention agency, and people making the threat work for gang prevention, and it's to a community that we work in, and putting that out in the community is absolutely a threat.
Janet, when this happened, there was a different mayor. Well, I don't know about the firing date, but the incidents that were described that led to the firings, there was a different mayor. Have you attempted to reach out to the city since the administration has changed to see if there's any change in attitude about whether or not this needs to be litigated, or whether or not the city is willing to concede some of the charges that you're leveling against them?
The city really hasn't put forward any kind of settlement offer to us. I haven't seen any change in the administration's position. I think that we still need to have ongoing discussions with them about that. But the bottom line is that I think previously the administration kind of pushed the issue back down, and the commissioner on down, Marta Rivera, it was just put back in the hands of the managers who did nothing.
Jamaine, I have a minute left. That job that you lost, that you did for 15 years, I'll tell you, from what I read about it, is about as tough a job as one can imagine. What did you like about being a street worker working with gangs in the city?
I mean, as tough as that job was my identity, I've been there for 15 years. I loved helping the youth. I loved working in my community. And when I lost that job, I wasn't allowed to do any of that again. I wasn't allowed to get a city job, work with youth, or any of that, so I pretty much lost my identity when I lost that job.
Jamaine Gaitor, I appreciate your willingness to come here and talk. And Janet Ruggieri, thank you so much for being here as well. I appreciate it, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. Good luck.